The games are about to begin. You're watching Butler Esports.
Welcome, everybody. New day, new land, new location. Well, some of you might remember this. Shout out Nace Finals for the one time. But welcome to the Butler R6 Invitational. I'm Botanic. This is Smoke. How you doing?
Dude, so excited. Let's
Yeah.
get right into it, man. Butler LAN, this is going to be crazy. We were talking to the teams a little bit earlier, just based off the info we were gathering and based off from what we were hearing. Everybody thinks they're number one. I'm going to just put it that way. So in the competitions like this, it's just simply the best.
The era of collegiate R6 that we live in, anybody could beat anybody. I mean, kind of speaking about the teams we got here in our first match, Akron versus Columbia. Akron hasn't been looking like their usual selves. I mean, obviously last semester to this semester, roster slightly different. Arv now graduating after that win in the NACE finals against Butler University. Now they bring in Space, and no shade, but the roster's been looking shaky. I mean, they've dropped maps to Columbia before in Playfly. They've outright lost to St. Clair in a BO1 and CR6, and they also lost to Cincinnati in a BO1 and Rallycry. Now, I was talking to the director, and he said he's not a big fan of BO1s. And honestly, from a competitive standpoint, me neither. They don't say the full picture, but we should be able to get into this one shortly.
Right, I mean, absolutely. We're just kind of seeing the whole result of, teams are realizing that the Giant in Akron can be slayed. And as bands come in, we're immediately going to see Columbia taking out that Montaigne. So, again, me and Botanic here, we were watching the map picking bands go down with Columbia, and Akron picked Border as the first map. Akron banning Blitz as well, so clearly not favorable to the shield ops. Obviously, the teams do not like these shield ops after the new shield updates that did draw. Not new necessarily now, but the most recent shield updates that dropped, obviously. It's going to be interesting to see. But on Border, I was going to talk about the fact that Columbia, last time they played Akron on Border, they 7-2'd them. And we went into the Akron room, and I was bringing up the fact that, hey, you guys picked Border, given the last result, what do you guys think? And everybody was silent. I don't think they liked it. So
you can hear a pen drop, but I don't really know. I don't really know if the Akron guys are kind of interview shy or not, but most things that matter will be said on the server, in my opinion.
Well, you gotta assume, based off the fact that they're willing to take Columbia back here again, you gotta think it was more of just, no, I'm assuming they have an ace up their sleeve.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, although, with the shields gone, the dynamic of Border kind of changes, especially with how, scrappy it is, not having that free space taking in the form of Montaigne and or Blitz. It kind of complicates things, but you can still do stuff like an East Plant with Osa. It's just going to be a little bit more risky.
Right, absolutely. And the thing is here, what I'm really looking forward to is I want to see how this Deimos gets utilized. Again, I love when teams pick into this Deimos. He's, for those who don't know, a great operator to really confirm around, especially if the Deimos player is able to just save their scans, not waste them early. Maybe you can try to get a roamer out of position and make them fall back a little bit, but I think that Deimos is one of the greatest operators when it comes to confirming round wins, especially on man advantage, and it's going to be very interesting to see here how Columbia combats that. Again, that's going to be now switched into the Jackal, so we can understand now that that's going to be used to try to roam clear this Vigil out, which makes sense because Vigil is now that counter to Deimos, so that does make sense there. Again, I think that's going to be the X factor. Can this Jackal find early space, early gaps to be taken? And that's an absolutely massive pick by Phil there. I was going to talk about that. The Jackal being down first is absolutely the worst start you could have imagined on this attack for Akron.
Yeah, I was going to say something about all those long angles being open and Vigil with the Bosti with that ACOG, a match made in heaven, and Phil just really showing how effective it can be. But in terms of efficacy, Akron doesn't actually have much right now. I mean, you have a Brava, but there's not much in terms of gadgets to hack apart from default cans, maybe.
Right.
And Phil still living over here by break room, getting pressure put on him. Not exactly limping, but now he's limping, and he'll get down, but he's not out yet, as Kosa just holding those long angles, using it against Columbia, as Phil will just be crawling away to safety. Being able to maybe get away. Oh,
Wow.
Costa just missed it by a hair. Now Akron successfully taking space. Drones coming out. Actually, Costa gets downed. Finally, Phil gets taken out. CL picks up one. 4v4, now 4v3 advantage for Akron. Minute 30 left on the clock.
Right, I mean, Jetcon's just one of those players who can really turn around into his own sometimes, and he's just done that right now for Akron. If they can get Kosa up, they could be looking at a potentially another re-swing now from Jobu, and he's going to be able to take down Flixer. Again, I was just going to say, Jetcon's one of those guys who can really turn around for Akron, and right now, Akron, they've completely flipped the switch.
I mean, utility be damned for that Brava. That camera just hits hard. Jobu not even afraid. He wants those up-close gunfights using the one-times on it instead of the ACOG. He doesn't want to play passive on this character at all. And it just landed us in a very awkward spot with 58 seconds left on the clock. Two very lit players, but he doesn't even get done with the first.
Right, I mean, again, Akron, you know what? Props to him. That round started in the most nightmare scenario imaginable, and they pull it back. They get past the castle setup in security. I love that castle setup from Columbia College, but it just didn't work out for them in the very end. They were able to just take the picks and win by that on the side of Akron. They were just taking gaps that were given to them. And I gotta say, it was a really good job of just being able to rally when you're down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when Akron loses their first pick, they slow down. They play disciplined, and Columbia peeks into them.
Right.
Just kind of surrendering the man advantage. Of course, we have to know Jobu finding a huge gap over there by Archives, but Columbia, most of that is on them.
Right, I mean, absolutely. I kind of question the repeat that we saw on 90 as well, to the player on East. Like, it just, some of the stuff here, just, it was minor mistakes that then turned into major mistakes, and gaps were then blown out of proportion. It allowed, especially for that Brava on the balcony, to just immediately walk in, right? And again, with the Mira as well, yes, it's hard to play around that. Swinging into that, though, is a little bit awkward, especially when you have so many other crosses that are that are currently being taken right now and covered by Akron. So again, it was just a really disciplined round, as you said, from Akron. And if they're going to keep on playing like this, you got to assume they're very composed to start off early.
Yeah, as we take it to a bathroom teller's bomb site, the tempo might change from Akron, though. They do have a Glass. Normally, you would pair a Glass and or some kind of shield operator. Both of those out of the count, though. Well, unless you want to count fuse shields. But gonna be curious to see how Jobu can use this Glass in this round, as Space will be taking space by Top East. Drones coming out. About 2 minutes left on the clock. A lot of good information. Space now has two people he can ping. Actually, I think one of them has been pinged directly over by that passport side. Nub just holding to see if anybody wants to jump in that radio window. Free easy pick if that's the case.
Right, I mean, immediately there's going to be a gunfight that happens all the way onto the east stairs. Deimos now down to 2 health. And it is actually going to be Space who ends up finding the pick on Landis. That is the Fenrir now gone. So no more F-Nauts that he can just activate and deactivate. The ones that are left on have to stay on. The ones that are left off will never be activated. That's a huge pick early for Akron.
Yeah, and already nerfed Fenrir try to be much weaker, especially if he can't toggle what he wants to do in terms of activating those Fenrir mines. But now Akron secure that man advantage. Phil also limping for now.
Right, I mean, I immediately think as well, because that Fenrir is gone, the IQ can now just scan the ones that aren't opened and relay that information. Hey guys, these will not be opened. We can take gaps in this department now. Ghosty's going to be able to find another one on to Jobu. So again, picks coming out here from Akron. Jet, another one on to Ghostly. And right now it's the same thing. They're just using the clock well. They're not rushing anything. They're just taking gaps when given. They're taking what the defense gives them. And they are so disciplined right now in their attack. And it's really paying off.
Yeah, but as the clock drains down, these cap cans on the board by Ghostly, they're going to be ever more powerful. Not sure if Jet's been able to find them, but speaking of finding, 2 kills on the board for either side. Space as well. Another one for him. 3v1 for Akron. Not looking good for Flixer right now, who's stuck off the side. Finds the first, though. His position now revealed. Oh my god, a double, but he's not looking the right way. And Costa, safe pair of hands, closed it out. Round 2 for Akron.
Well, they just couldn't deal with him inside a workshop. Again, the Goyo just able to run rampant there. Finds the first, finds the second. A great job honestly, I was surprised that round that Space was even available to get away with as much as he did, being on 2 health. But man, it was a really good job, honestly, whenever a pick would come through or even just some damage. It wasn't necessarily even a refrag that came out. It was almost as if it was shot, counter shot. Akron was really hitting from all sides. But man, you got to give it there to Columbia. They really almost came back there on a 1v3 for Flixer.
Yeah, absolutely. Akron now on 2 rounds. They need 1 more to blow their previous performance against Columbia out of the water. And
Right.
with the pace they seem to be going at right now, wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Right, I mean, immediately seeing this, I can assume that they've definitely taken a look at their border since losing that game. Either that, or it was just completely the worst day for Akron. They were just on in a slump, right? This is a completely different look to what we saw back then. So, again, Akron, no surprise, they come out looking strong. But I'm a little bit surprised that it's against Columbia on this map, given their past result. I mean, this definitely looks a lot more Akron dominated, and I'm just really surprised here. Again, like I was saying earlier, we're not even seeing Columbia get a pick sometimes. The shots will just come out, Akron immediately returns fire. They're so good at calming out and refragging each other, but sometimes the frag doesn't even need to go down against them. They just see the tracers, they immediately find the guy to punish.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation around Akron this semester has been a curious one. You know, people are saying, like, are the GOATs washed? They're looking weaker than they, were at all. This is the weakest iteration of Akron yet. But still, Akron, it's a statement. Like, they have a lot of legacy attached to them. There's surely a part of them that still wants it. And they wouldn't be here if they didn't want it.
Absolutely. I mean, right off the bat, you got to talk about Jet right now. He's 4-1. He's just running rampant on the kill board. And if this keeps up, honestly, if Columbia can't find a way to shut down Jet, it's going to be a long day for them. But right now, let's see how this attack rolls out. It's going to be Akron now taking gaps. It's the Bravo who's actually going to be able to take down Flixer. And that's the second time Jobu's been able to just take that gap for free.
I mean, he's absolutely just relying on the sheer body damage that DMR deals. Now Columbia down to 2 guys. Jesus, Kosa with a beautiful kill on the Phil. Phil not even using the deployable field. Doesn't matter. Kosa with the swings. It's so clinical from him. Space as well on the Ghostly. And it's looking like an entirely different map of border from their first meeting down in Playfly.
Right now, it's going to have to come all the way down to Nubs on this Maestro. 0-2 so far. Hasn't been able to pick up a pick so far this round. And I mean, on a 1v5, you have to assume one of 2 things. Either A, you just kind of play for what the offense gives you now. Or B, sometimes you see that teams, when they come down to a situation like this, well, it's usually on the attack, end up kind of backing up and just taking more of a tactical timeout for in-game in the minute. But no, it's actually going to be the Maestro that swings on, has the planter, and now he doesn't have to worry about the fuser. He has Case, he knows where it is, and now he's got to hope the Akron players swing onto it, looks up to the hatch, but no, Space has already taken the gap inside a workshop, dropping down over the Archives hatch. He's going to be able to deal with the Maestro, and now a timeout requested by Columbia.
Yeah, I mean, great kill on the planner there, but as soon as that happens, you've alerted the Horde. Now just
Yes.
no idea where to look, where they could come from. Will there be a double swing happening? You need to try and isolate, and unfortunately, just not looking the right way.
Right, I mean, I got to talk about the fact that Kosa from that East Balk has just been able to take that gap inside of Archives twice now. That is not good, especially when that is something where you could have a 2 against 1. You could have someone peeking through the soft wall. You could have someone swinging through the setup, right? The computer setup. So again, I just don't really understand it, how that's going unchecked. It is something that I believe needs to be done, especially if you're trying to hold the vert from Archives. That needs to be something that's got to be on the, hey, this shouldn't happen list. But I believe that gets opened up because of the fact that Kosa, working on the half wall, working on the breach, it was just so good from him. I call them angle progressions, kind of like how a quarterback in football goes through rep progressions, right? You have your 2 default angles that you can kind of look for, right? Kosa knows exactly where he needs to position his crosshair, and he knows, if I deal with this guy first, this guy can't see me. So he's going to peek the half wall first, finds the head of that Warden, and then immediately knows, okay, I can stay calm and collected. I've either made this guy move, or he has to stay in this predictable angle. He just pre-fires it, finds the 2, I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful work there, and great job using angle progressions from Kosa.
You know, I'm surprised, Smoke, a Canadian talking about football. I thought you would have used a hockey analogy.
No. I've always been a big football guy since a little kid. But yeah, I really do love when I see Siege players work that, just kind of in and out of their gunfights, realize which one to take first, which one to take second. That's the difference really between a good player and a great player. And again, Kosa's showing why he's a really great player on the Akron side.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, now that Imat's gone, Kosa might be the next one to, you know, get that title of like grandfather of Collegiate Siege. I mean, a lot of great players have come through those Akron doors. You know, Imat, Hennessy, shout out Hennessy. I love that guy so much. But like, oh, Castleberry get instantly blown up. Sorry, Ghostly, but no, yeah, like Kosa has the results, has the time, he has the legacy, and now he's showing just how much he means business here as Jet finds one on the field. Akron once again secure man advantage. Oh, this is such a sneaky drone that's going to be calmed over, and you know, how much does Ghostly have left to live?
Right, I mean, you got to think about that, right? They have that drone there in security. They know exactly where he's going to be at all times. And I think, again, even on the first pick, I really like what I'm seeing out of Jet here on the side of Akron. All the time, it feels like he's not really necessarily taking gaps. He's holding long angles and waiting for defenders to peek into it, ill-advised, right?
It's just like the first round. Just like the first round.
Just like the first round. Just taking what the defense gives you. And so far, Akron, I believe, have had first pick almost every time. Well, at least for the 2 rounds instead of the 3. It's going to be Space now on the side of the Dokkaebi with that DMR! Raining fire over Columbia, 2 headshots for his efforts.
Yeah, and something needs to change from Columbia here because they just don't seem cognizant at all about how their setup's being used against them. They need to maybe, you know, peel it back a little bit, you know, go back to basics. You know, none of this like long angle business. You know, the ACOG's not working in the Boss D. Phil has probably been the one picked off in the setup first every single time, and now it's a flawless round from Akron. And if you're Columbia, you're sinking. You know, you were surprised that they want to run it back, and now you know why.
Right, I mean, again, they're doing the same thing. It's the same attack 3 times in a row, and Columbia just can't stop it. They just position the Brava on that east bow. They clear out, they have a pre-placed drone, they clear out that security. I really love the aggression on the castle as well. Getting rid of that barricade immediately creates that sight line all the way from the other side of the balcony on the common breach on Armory, right? So you can watch that. It's a great job so far from Akron. I absolutely love what I'm seeing here. The gaps are being taken perfectly. And I gotta say, for Space's debut, at least for me casting, he's doing quite a bang-up job so far.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you know, contrary to Coast's opinion, when we talked about Space when we went to their team room, you know, Space seems to be doing quite well for himself right now. I mean, a solid addition to the Akron lineup, especially to replace somebody like Arv. I mean, no complaints at all, but I have complaints about Columbia right now, and they just seem to be running it back. I mean, they're kind of like doing the same thing over and over again, hoping something changes, but like something desperately needs to change. Columbia still has an opportunity to get into it. You know, border is attacker-sided. Columbia, if they can manage to just get 2, they put themselves in a comfortable spot going into the next half.
Right, well, I mean, I think the number one thing I'm really finding a little bit questionable is the fact that, you know, we see the Brava, we see on Akron they brought an IQ, they bring a Twitch now. They have stuff to clear out or turn these Fenrir F-Knock gadgets against the Fenrir. The fact that Columbia keeps on picking into this Fenrir, it's a little bit confusing just because it seems like it just hasn't been working so far. Again, it's just Space now taking what the defense gives him. The castle just taking a little bit of a wrong move, overseeing just a little bit, not realizing that it's exposed to that door on security, and already Ghostly put down to 50.
I mean, it's impressive how every time it's Columbia setting up in this very room, and still they don't find the drone. It's been Ghostly and Phil setting up in that break room the entire time, and yet Akron still managed to sneak one through. They have to be asking themselves, how do they know where I'm at? How can they see me? And this desperately calls for something like a Solus.
Right, I mean, absolutely. That's the number one thing I immediately was going to bring up after, is that a Solus would be a great, you know, counter here. And again, Jobu's going to be able to find an injure and a kill now, again, from that north bow, right? So it's a great job right now from Jobu. He's just simply taking this gap every time. The run up from the Fenrir from Landis. And there we go, taking the fight to Akron. It's going to be able to clear up space. That Dokkaebi gone off the board. But again, Jobu's taken this gap already,
my
and he's
God.
absolutely running wild.
It's
Finds
comedy.
a triple, and Kosa's going to be able to pick off the player again in security, who just simply overpeaks and gives him that pick for free.
I mean, it's comedy at this point. Colombia are jabbing holes into their own ship, and they're sinking. They keep running these setups that aren't working. Akron is taking full advantage. They have full information, and Colombia just has nothing.
Yep. And again, now on Bathroom Tellers, we're finally going to switch up now here on the site again. So the second rotation now. We're going to go Bathroom Tellers, but it's going to be interesting to see, right? I mean, so far Akron, they've honestly just kind of done the same thing. I really want to see now what Colombia is going to do, not having this castle to really try to pull off that security setup. They've tried it almost every round so far, and or at least it feels like it, and it just hasn't worked. So again now, with the change in the lineup, bringing in that Malusi, bringing in the Capcan and the Mira, obviously, for the Bathroom setup, let's see what Colombia can bring on the side of the defense. Maybe they pick up a round, or are we going to see Akron take a clean sweep so far on the attacking side before side swap?
I mean, just the momentum is purely in the favor of Akron right now, and I really gotta wonder what the whole vibe is of the Columbia camp right now.
Yeah, you gotta think, especially after the attack timeout's been burned, you gotta think maybe the mental's just a little bit shocked. I mean, right off the bat, I'm gonna assume if not then, absolutely now.
Yeah.
Jobu, again, finding a pick off long angles. Defense is just peeking into sight lines that lead outdoors. It's just been the same thing, and honestly, Akron, there's not really too much we can talk about that we haven't already picked up on already in this game. It's just the same mistakes that are happening over and over again.
I mean, when you're casting these games, obviously you don't want to try and be too biased. You want to try and bring up some positives.
Absolutely.
But they're just not. I can't think of
Right.
anything. Can you?
No, not really. Again, it's going to be CL that finds the kill onto Landis. There we go. Finally, a pick from Nubs. I guess what a positive I can bring up from Landis last round is that he was willing to at least get aggressive, at least on the run out, obviously. So, you know, Colombia showing that maybe they're not too afraid of Akron, but the score and the kill boards, I mean, it would really seem as though that is definitely not the case. Again, with a minute 42, Akron have already cleared out 3 players. They've taken gaps. And now I was going to say, jump on this glass is a gap. He can just go straight onto site. Going to be able to peek the Mira. This Mira working in and out of the gunfight. The smoke going down. Space is going to be able to pick off the player in Workshop. And now the Mira all by for Lonesome Nubs. He needs a miracle right now if he wants to pull this one out of the water. But I think the ship's already sunk. And it's official.
Oh,
Colombia
shooting bodies.
has drowned on the defensive side.
Yeah, no, that was an absolute massacre, and well, our first map on land together might be cut a bit short.
I mean, absolutely. This is just incredible what I'm seeing right now from Akron. I mean, again, if there was anything to really set the pace and show the teams, like, and set the tempo for Akron, this was the way to do it. Absolutely amazing from what we've seen so far, right?
I mean, like, Akron's playing out of their minds, but, like, how much of this is Akron dominance rather than Columbia mistakes? Because, like,
right.
it's just Akron taking advantage of the silver platter that Columbia is presenting to them.
I was just about to bring that up. I don't actually even really necessarily know if I can call this Akron domination. They're just setting up the same way, and they're simply just taking the same gaps that are given to them, right?
Yeah.
And it's every single time. We're rarely seeing any bite back from Colombia. There's been 2 instances of it. 2 kills that went down, 1 last round, and Landis on the run out. Other than that, again, far and few between. You can't point out a bright spot. It's just simple as that. I really hate when we see a game like this sometimes because, again, like you said, it makes us seem like we're so biased. I mean, but how can you not be? With what you're seeing right now, there's simply nothing to really pick up upon. But now with the side swapped, who knows? Maybe Columbia's a lot more, obviously, in-tuned on the attacking side. I know for the second map, they are going to bring it to Labs. Again, Labs, a map where your attack needs to be really strong. And maybe that's just it. Maybe they just couldn't deal with Akron on the attacking side. Maybe they just had some flaws in their defense. I mean, we know we can point out quite a few.
Yeah.
We'll be here all day doing that right now. No offense, but Maybe the side swap is just what Colombia need. We'll see how it goes down, though.
Yeah, and like, well, Colombia taking a very different approach to this. Obviously, Akron not really going for as complicated as a setup as Colombia did, and they don't really need to. And Colombia just going back to basics on this. Archives, Yang Glass, easy. But like, they really just need anything right now, and Landis is left limping as first contact has been made right there. Now they at least have good information on a player and break. They also know somebody's down by the triple wall, and space gonna be going out by CL with a good trade with the Nitro cell. And Ghostly just playing an annoying little prone angle right there, but Jobu might be aware.
Right, well, I mean, it's also noteworthy to point out both Impacts and Nitro now gone. So in the side of plant denial, there's not very much right now, actually, that Akron could do. Colombia potentially have a little bit of a gap that they can take with this. And if they can just try to find an entry onto site without, losing everybody, they could be in good right here. However, CL going to try to shut that down. The Boss G rings through the ears of Colombia as Landis is now off the board.
Yeah, I mean, just a very awkward push right there for Colombia. No refrag at all, and Nub's gonna fall as well. And CL's getting hungry with the Mossberg, but Flixer shuts it down. Colombia still a chance to recover, but oh my goodness. Ghostly puts that DMR to good use. Kosa down, 55 seconds. Only one smoke left in the pocket, and it's against the Warden. But now Colombia just depending purely on Ghostly to save them from this tragic fate. 40 seconds left on the clock. Jet tagged up. That's the only thing Ghostly really has. It's been so difficult to isolate these gunfights with the DMR, especially since the cross is so tight right now.
Right, absolutely. I mean, these Akron players are not going to move. They're just going to let Ghostly come to them. They're very rarely going to peek unless play off contact, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Playing off the contact, there is Akron. They're going to take this map 7-0. I mean, absolutely dominant. And being that that was Akron's pick, it is very clear to see that they have worked on their border since that last result. That was absolutely incredible from what we just saw from Akron.
I mean, yeah, it's not what either of us expected.
No, absolutely not. There's not really, like, where do we start?
It's a pretty short conversation. Damn.
Yeah. Simple as that. I mean, honestly, I think there were too many times where Jet was... honestly, you just got to give kudos. You don't want to focus on the negatives too much. Obviously, it's easier to focus on the positives. I think what Akron really did well was they just realized simply, like, what was given to them. And they knew, okay, Jet, they're just going to peek you on long angles. We're just going to have you set up right outside. That security pick, we can almost bank on it coming in at this point. And they just slide Jobu on that north balcony. And he's just waiting to take archives, right? It's the same thing. That pick goes out. Boom. We have no pressure from security. What's the second step? Clear out Fountain. The second Fountain, or even someone has a sight line on Fountain, they can cut off that cross from Fountain to archives, which then means you're leaving that Mira player that we saw so many times isolated and allows Jobu to just walk in. Simple as that. On the other side, you have someone working the breach. The second they have that, it's the same thing. I think we're just seeing Akron set up their crosses so well to then allow Jobu to just walk in to archives. We've seen it happen for quite a bit here. And the second any Columbia College player, honestly, tried to give that player in archives any help, they were simply cut down. Kosa was watching the angles on a breach. Jet was watching security. It was all the same thing. CL was set up on those east stairs, watching in a break. It was the same stuff. He would then Ash charge. Boom. You have that Fountain cross. We were just simply watching Columbia get hunted.
Yeah, I mean, they were almost shackled to their playbook. At that point, if it fails the third time, just run rank default. I mean, maybe just like have somebody shallow roaming by break room, but you don't need to keep opening these long angles. You know, the Boss G just isn't cutting it. You're not using Vigil for Vigil. He's not roaming. You're just trying to get aggressive, and you're getting beat down over and over again. You're not changing anything.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like I said, you just got to look at it and give credit to Akron.
Yeah.
You just got to give credit to Akron. It was an absolutely incredible game. All of them played great. Space looked like didn't skip a beat. Space looks like he's been on this team for a while based off that performance.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I mentioned in the broadcast, the conversation around Akron this semester, it's shaky. But with that, a statement win, a statement of how they want to perform.
Absolutely.
And well, I think that's it for now for us, as we'll be tossing into a quick break.
What's up, and welcome back, fellow Siege spectators and players. You just watched a border map that was quick, and we're going to get some answers at the bottom here as Yali joins me on the desk for a quick interview. Yali?
Hey, I'm Yali. This is Jobu. Just played. Honestly, just phenomenal work. Like, great job. It was super just fast, excellent entries. And that was the first thing I wanted to ask you about, is I noticed there were a lot of times that you found gaps and just took them. Was there anything, any sort of drone work or anything there that really you felt enabled you for you to do that? Or was it just raw confidence?
I mean, a lot of it was just raw confidence, but of course, we love to have the info beforehand. So just getting a quick drone in or two, checking if it's clear, and taking the gunfights.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. And my other question was actually about a little bit of preparation for this one. You have played Columbia College on this map before, and you lost 7-2. I was just wondering, were you guys thinking about that at all? Were you guys preparing for this, and that's why you went here, or was it just something that just ended up happening?
Yeah, so we took a couple of losses, we changed some things around, started thinking about stuff again, and just taking gunfights again. We love our gunfights, we love our raw confidence and our aim. That's something we've always been really proud of, so just started playing a bit more towards that.
Sweet, perfect. And finally, I just wanted to open up the floor to you to say anything you wanted to say here.
I mean, if anything, I just want to say thank you to anyone watching, and the facility here is lovely. If anyone wants to stop by, so we just love it here.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for sure. Thank you so much. That was awesome, great game.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And while he goes ahead and steps off, we're going to have Whiskey Run coming back onto the desk.
That's right. So it was a quick one, folks. A 7-0, a dramatic first game of the day. Whiskey, just going to ask you, how's that affecting the standings, right?
Well, I know the casters didn't get a chance to talk about it right at the beginning, but the way that the tournament's organized, best of two. And the key differentiator is round differential, and that's it, right? It's not based on points. It's not based on wins. It is round differential. So the team, like Akron, just pulled off a massive upset here. Is going to give them a huge advantage walking into the rest of this, the series, right? Round differential is it. So no trolling, no throwing, and really no overtime, right? If you're going to lose, you want to go all the way to overtime, because then you might only lose one round. But Akron, I mean, coming away with a huge win here to start off with.
That's right. And it was a big dramatic one. We were talking off screen, Yali, about like some of the same stuff that was repeated like over and over and over again. What are your thoughts on why it was such a devastating quick loss?
Yeah, I mean, just first off, the obvious statistic that you have to point out is Akron went 7-0 on the entry, and they were not being slowed down. That is something that I found particularly obvious in round 5. And there was a little bit of adjustment after the round 3 timeout, but not enough. What ended up happening is, once again, opening pick goes to Akron. Fenrir jumps out the window to try and equalize once it reaches a 5v3 and gets that to that 4v3 position. And then at that point, Columbia College was able to start activating, getting aggressive, and trying to push in, but they didn't do so with quite the right timing, not enough confidence, and that allowed Jobu, who we just had here, to just absolutely shut down a double peak that they had on him, finding that two-piece and quickly finishing off the round. And I think that speaks very much to the overall storyline of what we just saw. Columbia College is a competent team, as I just mentioned. They've won against Akron on that map 7-2, but to come here to a LAN and play against Akron first thing in the morning, absolutely brutal for anyone. We have to question whether or not it's a little bit of LAN jitters, but in any case, even though it's a 7-0, I don't think you should be discounting Columbia College. Akron being really one of the favorites here, and Columbia College still showing a lot of strategic prowess throughout that map.
Sure. So it's best of twos today. I'm going to bring you a couple of different maps going forward. But if we were going to see something change Whiskey Run, like what then is going to what are we going to need to see Columbia do to step it up for their second map?
I know Smoke and Botanic talked about that during the match. The DMRs were huge, such an important part of the way that that game played out. And all of those sight lines, I think really they're going to need to try and find a way to counter that, to change up the play style a little bit, because they were just falling to the DMR constantly, over peaking, and like you said, not being super aggressive, not swinging. They felt a little bit slow to start off with. So, like you said, early morning cast here to start off on LAN. Maybe a little bit more energy going forward.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. We got some more Siege coming at you. So when we come back, sit back and relax, because when we come back, it's going to be a second map. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For more updates, follow the Butler Esports socials at Butler Esports.